Yes. And we have a retreat coming up here in a couple weeks. I do hope you can join us. This retreat, there will be a incredibly powerful transmission of grace and light and love. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to make a big leap on the path. It's an opportunity for God to work on you and in you, within you. A major aspect of this path that I don't speak about often is calling upon grace and letting God do the work for you. And so I can smile and say that I can't claim any credit for where I'm at on this path. I let go and I let God do the work. And it's been quite nice that way, quite nice. And so anyways, why don't we do this? Why don't we start by closing our eyes and just feeling into the body and giving ourselves permission to arrive here fully. So breathing and feeling into your presence. And tonight I'm going to invite us just to notice if there is any part of you rejecting you. Is there any part of you rejecting how you're feeling? The temperature, sensation, thoughts, feelings, desires. And I invite you to notice, what is life like when you don't reject it? What is life like when you don't reject your own self, your own humanity? A different, less spiritual way I can ask this question is, say, could you give yourself a break? Could you give yourself a break? Can you give yourself a break? You give yourself permission just to be here in this moment without wanting it to be different. And so as you feel inside, you may notice that there's many ways that our egoic identity rejects life. Sometimes through commenting or judging, or trying to push us along in a certain way. Some of us are constantly adjusting our posture. Or have an inner critical voice just going at ourselves in one way or another. Sometimes it's simply through contracting throughout the body. It's mostly unconscious, just an unconscious contraction. And in this moment, can you simply notice that? Notice if there's contractions. And then I'm going to invite the one who notices to turn around and to see itself. seeing your natural beauty and divinity and goodness, noticing the spaciousness that's here, felt sense of aliveness, quiet sense of divinity. And can you give yourself permission to be this simple? To be the space, to be the aliveness. To be this expansive essence, which has no beginning, no end, no name, no gender, no age. And so as you're breathing in and breathing out, can you be? Can you be? Can you be? In the here and now, can you be? And so this is a good place to start. This is a good place to be. You can open your eyes if you like. If anyone has a question, you can raise your hand. You can put it in the chat. I have a couple questions from email. But earlier today, I found myself just, my wife wanted to take me to this neighborhood down the road, and I said, okay, yeah, I'll go. And we have a friend, my wife met a friend at jiu-jitsu, and she invited us over to her house, her neighborhood. And it's just the road to her home was just lined with these giant oak trees. You know, they'd be 2, 3, I don't know, 100 years old. There's massive trees. The Spanish moss hanging off of it, just so utterly beautiful. And I just was amazed at how beautiful God's creation is. And so we were just driving down this road, and I was like, my Lord, is this just so utterly breathtaking? And we drove and drove and drove, and finally we got to the neighborhood, and you know, you have to be like a multi-millionaire to live in this neighborhood. It had all these just big, beautiful houses, and the houses almost looked like toy houses, like fake houses, because there's all just mansions. Everything was perfect and beautiful and new and just incredibly manicured. And but I didn't see many people out walking around. I did see some people. They do this thing in the South where people drive in their own neighborhoods in golf carts. And so they're just driving around, and I was just looking. You know, I'm a people watcher. I was just noticing, like, this was the lifestyles of like the ultra rich, ultra wealthy. And I was just noticing no one looked really happy. Like, no one, we were the happiest folks there, and we were, you know, just just in awe of the natural beauty. But the primary look I saw on people's face was just worry, anxiety. I thought, my God, like, you've built yourself a palace, you have an empire of wealth. You live in this ridiculously beautiful place. And of course, like the Buddha taught, like every sage who's ever lived has taught, inner peace, inner happiness. It's an inside job. Inside job. Inside job. It doesn't come when we have the perfect house, the perfect partner, the perfect location, the perfect temperature. Inner peace is available to those who know themselves. And some people know money, they know finance. Some people know, how to work on cars, how to sell cars, how to play basketball. Some people know how to do this or do that thing. But how many of us know how to be happy? How to be happy? It's a great question. Now, the problem with happiness is we all have this egoic nature that's always telling us that there's something wrong, just commenting on life. Where I'm living now, my wife's been commenting, it's too hot, it's too hot, it's too hot. Like everywhere we go, it's too hot. And me, I can admit, it's like when I lived in Colorado, the comments that I had for a lot of the year was, it's too cold, it's too cold, it's too cold. But how many of us can actually just be? Just be. Just be. And it's funny, I have this little girl and she loves snow and she's totally comfortable with snow. She is terrified of rain. It's just like, because where we lived, it didn't really rain much. And here it just rains and lightnings and thunders. And we just get confused so easily by life. So easily get confused by the weather. We're willing to shut down and reject life. Because of the weather report. Because of our financial report. The numbers in our bank account. I used to lose sleep over the numbers in my bank account. Till at some point I realized God's the boss. God's the giver. And God's the taker. God's the giver and God's the taker. But how many of us see the trees? See the sky, see the ocean? How many of us are awake to the raindrops which are falling on our roof? How many of us are awake to this moment and not just lost in the eternal dance? Eternal dance of like, it's funny when you examine what's in people's minds, it's so often it's just nonsense. It's just a mind full of nonsense. I can remember when I was like 16 years old, the first real girlfriend I had, maybe I was even younger, maybe it was 14. The first real girlfriend I had, she broke up with me. And I can remember just sitting at my desk one night, listening to a little Grateful Dead on a tape deck, if people remember those. And I was missing out on the music because my mind was just spinning, 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 ruminating. I think that's the right word, ruminating over a girl who didn't want anything to do with me any longer. It's just, it just wouldn't stop. And it went on month after month after month. And I can remember I just stopped and I realized the mind, this mind in my head, this voice in my head is crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. It was right about then when I decided, well, I want to start meditating. And so I started meditating when I was quite young. It's just, I didn't even know what I was doing. I just closed my eyes and tried to look into the space where there was no thought. Tried to pay attention to anything but thought. And I came to realize that that's a pretty good way to meditate, just to pay attention to anything besides your own craziness. Besides your own craziness. And so anyways, okay, a lot of hands raised. Let's see if I can call on Kyle here. Kyle, are you here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
Awesome.
Kyle, tilt your computer up just a little bit. Delicate Arch.
Yes.
Moab, have you been there?
Yeah, in 2020 I was there, and then I had my mom, she painted that.
Oh, it's a painting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, the funny thing is Moab, where the Arches Park is, it used to be Moab, and then I'm sorry, Arches is the park, and then there's Canyonlands North and South right next to it. Were some of the least visited parks ever, and then along came Instagram, and the trail to Delicate Arch just has a bazillion people on it. It's like being at an amusement park. But yeah, you see those snow-capped mountains up there?
Yeah, those are the La Salle Mountains, right?
Yeah, the LaSalle's. And so me and my oldest daughter, last year we got on our mountain bikes, and we were dropped off at the top of those mountains, so right up where the snow is. And then we rode this trail. It's called the Whole Enchilada. It's like, I think it's 45 miles, almost all downhill. And you end up in the desert. It's this beautiful ride, but it was this tragic thing. My daughter, she sprained her ankle on the ride. And we walked off that trail like in the middle of the night. We easily could have gotten lost, but it was quite an adventure. I've done it twice, but it's probably one of the toughest mountain bike rides in the nation, if not the planet. But it's gorgeous because you start in alpine country, and then you end up just in the desert. And we both ran out of water, and we're just bleeding all over, and it was just a total disaster, but also so wonderful too. But that's my stomping ground right there. Yeah. So anyways, well, Kyle, what's on your mind? Thanks for humoring me there a little bit. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you were saying earlier is extremely relevant to my question. I visited my second cousin and her husband up in the mountains this weekend, and they have this beautiful house, 2 golden retrievers. I kind of found myself a little bit jealous of their lifestyle, and so I think I have some anxieties about like money and work. I think part of it is like, how does my soul fit into like this kind of materialistic economy? I'm kind of worried about like going from job to job, working two jobs rather than having like I want to find a career. I just don't know how my soul fits into this human human economy.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you a question just to clarify. Are you still a teacher?
Yeah, I'm a substitute teacher. So
Okay. So you,
right
you
now,
let go of your full-time teaching job?
I'm still a full-time teacher, but just like substitute teacher in one school building.
Okay. Yeah. 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 So I mean, this world, it's a funny world because the ego that we're given, it really divides this world into a worldly world. And somehow it takes, like God's world, a spiritual world, and puts it in a compartment. And it says there's the spiritual world and there's the worldly world. And for some reason, our ego just puts us all in the worldly world. And in the worldly world, there's these laws about, you work hard, you make money, you save your money, and, that type of thing. But, we're starting off just with a basic assumption that is completely wrong, that there's two worlds. So tell me what you call this. You call it a materialistic economy. Is that what you called it?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So let's take that word out of it. Let's call this, let's take that whole thing out of there. Let's just erase that just for fun. So this is God's world. And so everything here belongs to God, is of God. Everything here is divine. Now, if we start saying, nope, 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 this world is not divine. This world is run by crooks on Wall Street, or we could have some fun, the Illuminati, or big mean corporations. I had a laugh today because I was at someone's house who started a big mean corporation, and I had an encounter with that corporation this year that caused me some pain, and we were joking about it today. And like me and the CEO of it, I was like, I was angry for a minute at your corporation, and then until I realized, that God was doing something. That God was doing something to me. It wasn't the big mean corporation. God was doing it through the big mean corporation that wasn't so mean, but was certainly big. So, we have this idea that that God is not here on earth. And as soon as we do that, we begin to suffer. We begin to suffer. Now, if we have a question about money, and if we have a question about career, and a question of purpose, this is a great spiritual question. And what it is really a question of is power and support. And, and then let's throw something else in there. It's a question of gift. And so God is always asking you, as you incarnate, as you begin to mature in your incarnation, have you realized your gift? Are you sharing your gift? And do you believe in your gift? And do you know it's my job, God's job, to support you? Like, do you know these things? So it's God's job to pay you to share your gift here on planet Earth. And so I'm going to ask you this, Carl. Do you know this?
for a while, I thought I really, really knew. Now I feel like I just kind of mostly know. I also feel like it's going to take a lot of time for that to materialize into like a career and, you know, a middle class house and stuff like that.
So you said, I mostly know it. And then you said it's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask you this. Do you know how long it's going to take?
I think maybe 10, 15 years.
10 or 15 years. Okay. How do you know that?
By kind of turning inward and being honest with like how crazy I still am.
So you're just telling me you have another decade of craziness within you, and somehow that craziness is getting in the way of you realizing.
Yeah, like really bringing my gifts forward through a career.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And one, I'm gonna harass you a little bit. I'm gonna ask you one more time. Do you know that, like, with 100% certainty, it's going to take 10 or 15 years?
No, another spiritual mentor I met with said, "Oh, it could take way less than that."
Yeah, it could take way less than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll really screw with you here. It could take way, it could take a lot longer than that. Yeah, it could. It could be really quick. Could be really quick. And so so tell me, what is your responsibility in it?
To listen and to be honest.
To listen and to be honest. Good. And are you doing this?
Yeah, mostly.
Mostly, boy, that, you see, I'm gonna harass you a little, Kyle. So that mostly is going to get you in trouble. That mostly is going to get you in trouble. So if you want it to be longer, you know, like 15, 20 years, keep allowing for that mostly. That mostly. You know, because like with the mostly, like I understand and appreciate the honesty, or the humility, rather, honesty and humility. But we have to be careful. Like sometimes we give ourselves permission to kind of slack a little bit. I can tell you, I gave myself lots of permission. It made things take a lot longer than it needed to be. A lot longer than it needed to be. And my teacher's teacher, Hilda, she said it's that last 10%. It's the last 10% that nobody wants to do. And I found that really true within my own self. Like I'm really good at 90%. And that last 10%, I'm like, looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. Let's call this done. But the last 10%, that's normally where our work is. Where our work is. But I'm going to tell you this, my friend. So I like it that you're not full of just pompous arrogance, like, oh yeah, I have this gift and I can be I don't know what like a social media star, just like overnight and go viral, be a millionaire. Like you're not going like totally there, because that's mostly unrealistic for, you know, the majority of people. But also I'll say this, that time is moving a lot quicker in the modern age. And so it's possible that you could start sharing your gift and, let's say, be supported by it, for it, you know, probably much sooner than you imagine. And the thing that I often remind people is this world could use more good people sharing their gifts. This world could use that, could use more good people sharing their gifts. And many of us, especially spiritual people, have issues around unworthiness that gets kind of mixed with a fear. And when that happens, what happens is the fear kind of plays with the unworthiness to create like a sabotaging type of energy that shows up in excuse making or putting ourselves last, or just not really paying attention to our gift, kind of subtly ignoring it and going and working for the quote unquote man instead. And also what I could throw in there, I could sprinkle in a little bit of just lack of trust that this is God's world. You know, and again, like I can say, I did that. Does that make sense the way I'm describing that? Yeah. Yeah. And like me, I had a really clear wound. I came into this world. It appeared that my father didn't want me. It appeared that way. It wasn't necessarily true, but it appeared to me that way, like that I wasn't really wanted. Or maybe it was that he wanted me to be someone different. He wanted me to be a soldier. And so the way I just interpreted that with my inner psychological nature was, life doesn't want this. Life wants something else. And so this thing that I am, like this good thing, this divinity, this gift that I am, life doesn't want it because my daddy taught me that. And then I just projected that onto life. I projected that onto life, you know, into my early 30s. It's like, my God, the amount of money that cost me through just not believing in myself. I'm just going to say it that way, you know, just like in a fun financial way. It's just like the amount of money it cost me for me to hold on to that wound and not believe in myself. I can remember I'd go to healer after healer and teacher after teacher, and I would just apologize. I'd just be eternally apologizing for my presence. And sometimes even, you know, like a teacher or a therapist, a healer would say, like, Craig, don't apologize for yourself. And I'd say, okay, I'm sorry. They'd be like, don't apologize. And I'm like, I'm sorry. You know, like, don't apologize. And I was eternally apologizing and making myself last. Making myself last. And so throughout my work week, I tell spiritual people, teach them, work with them, and say, make yourself first. Make yourself first. First. If you want to be a cup that's overflowing, make yourself first. Make yourself first. And so, Kyle, you have a good heart. You have a good mind. And you have gifts. I'm going to invite you to believe in those. Believe in those. I'm going to invite you to begin walking in that direction. Maybe pick up the pace a little bit. Pick up the pace. You know, if you want to be something great, then be it. Just be it. Be it. Become it. Step into it. Make it the priority of your life. Make yourself the priority. And my God, like, how old are you, Kyle?
31.
31. You want a house in the mountain with 2 dogs?
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Okay, yeah, that seems like a reasonable thing that a 31-year-old could pull off. house in the mountain with 2 dogs. Yeah, dogs are easy. They're the easy part to get. The house in the mountains, like you can pull that off. You know, I mean, we don't want to start with maybe with Vale or Aspen or Telluride, but you know, which mountains?
Yeah, the Rockies here in Colorado.
In Colorado? Yeah. Are you in Colorado?
Yeah, I just moved here,
To where?
Fort Collins.
Oh, Fort Collins. Okay. You gotta get inland because Fort Collins still out in the flats, right?
Yeah, I can just see the foothills really.
Yeah. Go get in the mountains. Go get in some trouble. I need teachers in the mountains. I need spiritual people in the mountains. Yeah. Go get in it. Go get in it. Yeah, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Like people are so afraid to jump into something. And you know, if it's the truth, God will support it. If it's the truth, God will support it. And if it's not the truth, God will correct it. Will steer you in the right direction. Yeah. So which town do you want to live in? Have you traveled around Colorado?
Yeah. I mean, I love like the Breckenridge area.
Yeah. Yeah. Breckenridge is great. Yeah. It's expensive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, like the funny thing about like all those mountain towns is like they are way too expensive. But every year, I'm gonna use this word because is how we kind of I'm gonna put myself in this class. There's a ridiculous amount of us dirt bags who find a way to live in the mountains for cheap. You know, and it's just like a way, you know, different word, you know, dirt bag, like dirt bags are the ones that are actually really hanging out in Moab and the deserts and that type of thing, which is really what I'm into. But the ski bums, like they find a way, and the raft guides, they find a way to make it work because they believe, like they believe that their life, my life is about skiing, and I'm going to do whatever it takes so I can ski, you know, 100+ days a year. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And, you know, like I had, you know, 3 decades in the Rockies and I did whatever it took, whatever it took to live there. I gave my life to it. I gave my life to it. And I made it work. And so when you want something, like give your life to it. Believe in it. See it, dream it, make it happen. Trust in yourself. And please, like, don't do this error that I did, is don't divide the world. The great Krishnamurti said this is the greatest sin. The greatest sin. As you say, there's a spiritual world, and then there's a worldly world. There's only one world, and it's all God. All of it. All of it. And so you can talk to God, you can challenge God, say, God, you gave me this gift, Lord. And so God plays a funny game. God gives you a gift. You think it's your gift, but God gives you the gift. And then you're obligated to express it. And so it's something we have to do. And the human egoic nature thinks, okay, God gave me a gift. I have to express it. I must express it. But then we look to the world to support us. You know, the whatever you call it, the materialistic economy. And what you'll find is the materialistic, quote unquote, materialistic economy will not support you. But God certainly will. And God will support you in her time, her way, according to your specific need and her specific plan, which is the same thing, by the way. So she will support you. Now, the problem that often occurs is God's eternally trying to support us. And we are eternally making it difficult for her through not believing in our own self, through not believing in her. And then God has to show us something different. God says, all right, if you're going to play that game, then I have to turn off the tap of abundance. God plays this game, and I hate to do law of attraction stuff, but God plays this game. If we don't believe in ourselves, we'll be unsupported. But when we do believe in ourselves, there's a funny thing that happens. We start to be greatly supported. The reason God turns off the tap is not to punish us, but just to show us, like, hey, I need you to believe. I need you to have faith. I need you to trust. Because when you believe in yourself and your gift, you're actually believing in God. You're actually believing in God. Like supports like. I think is how all those get rich manifestation people speak. Like supports like. And so the greatest thing you can do is not think about 10 or 15 years. To say, yeah, there's something good here. And of course, this good thing can be useful in the world. And of course, the world will support me because the world is God. And the world is evolving. And the world needs this. That's why I release you, my friend. Go forward into the light. Yeah. Yeah. Go forward into the light. Good to see you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome to Colorado. How long have you been to Colorado?
I moved here like 10 days ago.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's why you're a substitute teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because my licensure didn't, so I just got a sub license right now, but I think I can
Yeah. You gotta play the game.
play the game,
Yeah, play the game. Play the game. I'll tell you this, Kyle. If you would have harassed me a little bit, I could have given you some inside info. If you go around, I'll just give it to you right now. If you go around to some of those little mountain towns that have little charter / alternative schools, they'll hire you without a license.
Okay.
Yeah, you just got to walk in the door and say hi and get your name on the list. And
I just have a little bit of teaching. I have teaching experience.
Yeah, they'll hire you with no teaching experience too. And if you go real south, like if you end up down on, in some of the poorer country, like where I was living, and like go off into like some Navajo land or Ute land, like they'll be ready to they're ready to give you a job right away because it's hard.
Okay.
Hard to find teachers out or fill those positions out in those desert schools. But anyways, look around, play around, and like I had a teaching job before I had anything, any kind of license or anything official. So anyways, good to see you, Kyle. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Wesley, are you here?
Hello,
Yeah. Hi, Wes.
Greg. Hi, everybody. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. The question I have today is variation on the same question I feel I ask every time. But, it's what's difficult for me.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess, to put it succinctly, the question is something like how to know when to confront in a situation. I'd like to give just a tiny bit of context, though, if I could.
Sure.
Okay. For a long time, I feel really the first 3 decades of my life, basically, I did not, I by and large did not confront in situations. I was just very shut down inside. And it was, it was a survival tactic in certain ways. It was also because, my nervous system was just really frozen.
Yeah.
And then as this process has gone on, that really has not been an option to keep, that just that just no longer worked.
Yeah.
To put it succinctly. And so, but I'm finding that, I've got so many other things going on internally. There's all these kind of OCD traits and patterns that you know about. So I'm kind of, I guess, trying to find some guardrails on, often if I don't confront on a situation, something comes up, I don't confront. I've been trying different things because it's really disempowering also on a certain level to feel like I need somebody else, an interaction with somebody else in order to clear this. I don't, I'm able to do it if I need to do it. If you were to say, no, you just need to keep doing it, there's enough courage and strength that I've done a lot of difficult confronting I can give myself credit for. But it also, I guess on the flip side of, if I don't confront often on something, that I just feel sort of disempowered. I feel like there's a voice inside me saying, you're not safe, you need to defend yourself. Today, for example, there was something with a neighbor and I sat with it for a few days. I'm kind of oscillating between, I'll just go inside, find the emotions, try to penetrate into them with my awareness and clear them.
Mm-hmm.
You had said something earlier about, you realized your mind is insane. You're living inside of a crazy mind when you were younger.
Yeah.
And there's a way in which I can just not engage any of the thoughts. It's like they try to climb up into the mind and I can kind of dismount off of the ladder. It climbs up 100 times a day and I just kind of hop off of it. So I do that dance and I try to dissolve it that way. And then sometimes I do confront and I feel like I'm pretty skillful about it. I have developed a lot of skills in that area. And I did that with a neighbor today. I wasn't able to clear it. So I just said, well, screw it. I'm just going to talk to him. And I felt like I was pretty clear and pretty kind and direct and stayed on my side of the street. But I noticed, I felt I'm 2 hours, 3 hours afterwards now. And, I felt like she kind of slimed me a little bit. There was some like jabs that came in. And what happens is my nervous system kind of freezes whenever I feel somebody attacking.
Mm-hmm.
And so it takes me a while to unthaw. And then I'm left in the situation where I'm at now, which is like my nervous system is starting to dethaw and it's saying, why the hell didn't you defend yourself? Now the only way to resolve this is to engage them again and try to do it again. But it just seems like it's just a Medusa,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of pouring fire. So it's like I can't find by myself, I'm not finding the ability to clear some things. Then there's all these hazards with engaging. I've said a lot more than a little bit, but thanks for hearing all that.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me,
And I know we keep going back and forth on this one.
no, it's okay, Wes. Let me ask you a question. So I think you said something like this, and you correct me, but like say like the first half of your life, you felt like you were frozen.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, yeah. And like how do you feel now?
In this moment or just kind of in general now?
Just in general? Yeah, in general.
Um,
Like do you still feel frozen or do you feel something different?
no, there's just, yeah, something different.
Yeah. So I'll give you a couple of choices and you'll say I can choose one of those or maybe I don't like them. So like right now, do you feel like generally like you have a lot of energy? It's like wanting to move. Do you have agitation? Do you have fear? Do you have pressure? Do you have intensity?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And so like sometimes we're frozen our whole life. I was frozen most of my childhood as well. Like when you were speaking, I was really seeing myself, Wes, just like people would say things to me and I couldn't even, I would just hear them and my mind would just go blank and I'd be
Yeah,
frozen. And then like,
exactly.
6 hours later, I'd be like, I should have told him to fuck off or something,
Right,
and
right. Exactly.
I just like, it didn't even compute to me in the moment because I would just go into such a freeze response. Like I was really good. I was like proficient at
Yeah.
being frozen most of my childhood. And then you said, so what you'd acknowledge, okay, like you said, like I think you said like you felt pressurized or agitated, a lot of energy moving. And then you said something about like getting relief from like speaking up, correct?
Yes, that's a big part of it. Is like I can't tell what's the kind of OCD thing happening, the
Yeah.
wound, and what's the,
Yeah.
this is actually just healthy that I need to speak up. I also don't want to become like, see, the other pendulum is becoming hyper vigilant about every little slight. I need to be on my game and I need to bat that down. I need to
Yeah.
defend that.
Yeah.
And I don't like that either. Yeah.
So if you were hyper vigilant, how would you feel inside?
Well, that's funny because I'm saying one thing, but I'm kind of both. I've been hyper vigilant my whole life and I've been kind of frozen. Maybe I'm not explaining that right,
No,
but
no,
yeah.
no, 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 that's good. That's beautiful that you can say that because when we are hyper vigilant
Yeah.
and frozen, the inner experience that's going to create is pressure, right? Like a
Right.
feeling of inner pressure. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's part of it for sure.
Yeah, like, and I would say probably not a little pressure, but probably a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's a feeling of unsafety, I think, is part of it.
Yeah, 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 like tremendous unsafety. It's like not feeling safe, but just like internally, like that dance of being frozen and hyper vigilant. It's like something that's, in a sense, almost like wants to explode. Like
It's
that's
exhausting. It's
it.
totally exhausting.
It totally exhausting, right?
Yeah.
And so you said something about like, I want to know like how to respond so I can get relief. Right?
That's true. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the way I look at like, should I respond or should I not? I ask my gut just to tell me the truth. And when the gut leads you, it's not about getting relief. It's just about the truth. But when our egoic nature is leading us, it's about relief. It's about relief. And don't take that personally. Like almost everyone on planet Earth is, letting off steam through either yelling, honking, just telling someone to shut up, writing crazy,
Passive aggressive jabs. That's how I
yeah,
usually get.
passive aggressive jabs. You excuse my profanity this evening, but I'm just going for it. But like writing crazy shit on social media, getting in political fights, like people just like letting go of pressure, like they're regulating their pressure. And it's important to realize like, that's what we're doing here. Like we're not in the truth world. We're in the world of, I've got pressure and I'm regulating it.
Right. I hear that 100%. And that's clear to me. That's clear to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Like my father, he regulated pressure through yelling at us. He had lots of pressure and he just yell at us. And it was, it wasn't the truth. And so like, if the question is, well, what's the truth? That's a moment by moment thing where, your gut will tell you. And I'm even going to say this, I'm going to say, go with your gut. And even if you quote unquote make a mistake, quickly forgive yourself. And so like, that's the teaching here. And through going with your gut and quickly forgiving yourself for being a human, if you do make a mistake, then there's almost no pressure within your nervous system. And again, like I'm going to just like speak a little freely tonight. Sometimes I say the craziest, stupid shit. Just like, and afterwards, I'm like, I probably should have said that. But there's immediate forgiveness.
Right.
There's immediate forgiveness for myself. And sometimes people say crazy shit to me, friends, family, whatever. And there's almost always immediate forgiveness for them. So again, then there's no pressure that builds up. But if I play the freeze game with hypervigilance, I'm going to have, I'll be like a doctor here. I'm going to have hypertension. I'm going to be on the edge of having a panic attack in every moment.
Yeah.
So to me, this is, it comes down to like what's actually going on here. We're using just like this idea around conflict and when to speak up as really a way to manage our inner pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's just say like, it's not going to work. What it comes down to, you said it a moment ago, you're like, I don't feel safe. So what's going to be healing is a couple of things, is anything you can do to help your physical body, your nervous system, and your consciousness to feel safe. Anything you can do to do that is going to be the way forward. And then in regards to the interactions with human beings, I'm going to say, speak from your gut and quickly forgive yourself or the other. But it's very hard to forgive. It's very hard to speak from your gut if you don't feel safe first.
Yes, completely. Yeah.
Yeah. But what I'm going to say is like, you're probably not going to feel safe through being hyper vigilant, like judging yourself and really, what the hell is the right thing to say in this moment? That's probably going to make you feel more unsafe and more like neurotic.
Of course. Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so your hypervigilant part won't won't like this, but I would say, Wesley, the more you allow yourself to be a human ego and just shoot from the hip and just say whatever you want, whenever you want, is probably going to be a lot more healing than being on guard and being exact and being precise and being a good, like, skillful Buddhist.
Right, right. Yeah, see that, I hear that, and that yes, I can hear that.
Yeah. But then
And
you're going to have that judge that's going to come forward and give you a
well,
hard time, right?
part of it's the judge. Another part is I don't want to do to people the kind of damage that I had experienced, growing up. And
Right. But
when I shoot from the hip, I tend to not, like, for instance, today when these jabs were kind of coming my way, I felt like I was being really kind of vulnerable and open and soft, and was still getting these jabs coming at me. What I did was I just didn't react to it, which allowed me to kind of stay in the moment. Had I kind of just shot from the hip, boy, it just would not have. I think I'd be in a experience has shown me I'd be in a worse position right now.
so
I
I
don't know if
bet
said that
you,
well.
no, I'm with you. I bet you would judge you were in a worse position. It'd probably feel like you were in a worse position. But after you begin to see that the other person is okay and you're okay, I bet your body would begin to relax more fully.
Yeah,
And
I'm willing to try. I'm willing to try that for sure.
yeah, and I'm gonna like say it like this way. I'm gonna like talk like a little something like from jujitsu. Like there's all these jokes about white belts in jujitsu. So white belts are like the new guys, gals, new people on the map. And they come in and they have like all this pressure in them, like all this fear, and they don't know how, like they don't know the art of jujitsu. And so they're just like try real hard to kill and strangle, and they're freaking out. They're just like sweating bullets, and they're like having an eternal panic attack. But like after they, again, I'm just gonna be like have a little fun here. Like after they get in the octagon for a little bit and get beat up and get choked and just try to like expel all their energy, then eventually they calm down, and then they kind of smile and laugh at themselves. They smile and laugh at each other. They smile and laugh at someone else who did the same thing to them. And then like there's this like communal forgiveness of like, oh yeah, like I was that guy. Like I was that guy. And like sometimes as humans, we have to just like really fail and like blow a gasket like in every different direction before we can wake up and realize like, I'm okay, they're okay, we're all okay.
Yeah.
We're all okay. But if we don't, like if we're on edge all the time about exactness and precision and I'll just throw in like political correctness, right speech, right action, like some of the most neurotic people I've ever met are like monks and nuns living in the monastery who are trying to follow like every damn rule perfectly.
Right.
And I looked in their eyes and they looked like the next, I hate to say it, but like the next shooter.
Yeah.
Like they're just like ready just to like, and there were times when like, I have seen like a monk or a nun go bonkers, just like totally nuts, just totally nuts. In fact, I can say this like with a smile. My daughter, Ani, like Ani's actually a name that almost all Tibetan nuns go by. They just call themselves Ani. But like this nun that me and my wife befriended, she just like went crazy. Like she couldn't keep it between the lines. Like she tried so hard and she just went like nutty. And like I just loved her so much. My wife loved her so much that we named my daughter after, like a nun who's just like, is this wild, just this wild, beautiful woman who, was just breaking every rule right and left, because finally, like, she was beginning to experience a level of freedom beyond her superego.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like when we don't feel safe, like the last thing we want in our life is a mess. But sometimes the only way for us to realize that we are safe is to get into a mess and allow there to be a mess, and for us to realize, oh, this mess did not kill me. Like, this mess is actually like, all of life is this giant mess. Like, everyone, myself included, is an idiot, is a fool, is deluded, is crazy. And when we start admitting that and like smiling and rolling with it, and there's an aspect of our inner strength that wakes up that's not available when we're trying to control and do it all right. And like the intention you have, Wes, like to protect others from your emotions, is beautiful. It's beautiful, but if you're protecting someone but doing violence to yourself, that's probably not the way, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you. I hear all that. I'll sit with that. I still am kind of in this, like, do I re-engage and have another conversation when it seems like it's just gonna bring up more. I mean, I hear you saying a couple of things, and I hear my mind bringing up a couple of things. It's like, I kind of don't like the feeling that I have to now engage with this person to clear it. But maybe that's, you're saying I need to just do that. I don't know.
Well, okay, I want to be very careful there about I'm going to say this, that when we have pressure inside, one of the ways pressure is released, is through engagement. It's the primary way, and that's an ego way. But I'm just going to say, let's give ourselves permission to engage, let it release. Like, sometimes, like, the best thing we can do is, like, we had something at my daughter's last school. If you see something, say something. Like, if you see it, just speak up. Speak up. Like, you see something, you just speak up.
Yeah.
You speak up. After a while, like if you're just speaking up all the time about everything, like if we become like the next social justice warriors speaking up about everything, at some point we might realize, I need to relax. Like, I'm just losing we might be able to laugh at our own, like, hypervigilance and on edgeness and trying to save the world.
Yes, I'd rather do that. I want to just give myself props that I even put myself out there to talk to the neighbor and try to do it today.
Yeah.
But my mind just keeps saying, anyways, I've taken up a lot of time and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no. I mean, Wes, everyone, I'm sure, goes through this. Like, don't worry about the time thing. It's just, it's confusing as hell being a human being. It's like, but the big thing I want you to hear is, forgive yourself for being human, forgive others for being human. If you want to speak, speak. And at some point, laugh a little bit, like, at the craziness of being human, like how seriously you take yourself, how seriously we take others, and, to smile and joke. And like, sometimes we have to go out and get in a little bit of trouble to realize, like, oh my God, like, like, I'm losing my mind here. Yeah. I'm losing my mind here over a little something. And, just like, generally speaking, like, purely from a psychological perspective, like, as far as like the healing trajectory, if we've been frozen our whole life, it's a huge step forward just to start speaking up anywhere and everywhere. And then after you've exhausted that, you'll probably be able to hear the voice of truth in your belly a lot more clearly. But sometimes we have to kind of walk through that evolutionary trajectory of being frozen, not saying anything, to just be like, just saying way too much too often, and then for it to rebalance. So anyways, hope that helps. Good to see you, Wes.
You too, Craig, and thanks for everyone for giving me that space.
Yeah, much love.
Take care.
Okay, let's hear from Chrissy. Chrissy, are you here?
Hi, Craig.
Hi.
I just wondered if you could speak about grace, please.
Yeah. Well, let's do this. So I'm going to invite everyone not to hear anything I say, but rather just to come into your heart and just feel in your heart. So grace enters through our heart primarily. And so one of the ways we receive grace is, I just want you to imagine that your heart, we just forget about the whole organ thing, but just imagine your heart is like a bowl. And in that bowl is a giant lotus flower. And so when a flower receives light, that's the same way in which we receive grace. Like a flower isn't like grasping at grace. It's not like thinking about grace. There's no thought in the realm of grace. Like if we want to connect to grace, it has nothing to do with thinking. So we'll play a game right now. So we're just imagining like a big bowl in our heart with a flower in it. And let's have some fun. Let's imagine another bowl on the top of our head, just with a giant lotus in it. And so in this moment, I'm going to call forth the Divine Mother, just inviting her to flow down through the crown, through the third eye, through the throat, and into the space of the heart. So I'm just inviting the Mother just to flow into us. And so if anyone's tripping over the word mother, the mother is just a presence of love, of light, of holiness, divinity. And we'll all just play this right now, where we're opening and receiving. And so for many of you right now, you're beginning to feel this flow. And you notice it's like, it feels really nice. It feels lovely. A sense of warmth and aliveness. Like a blessing is coming into us. And so to receive it, to receive grace, you have to be humble like a child. You have to be still. So like some people, they're not still. They don't know how to sit still. They say, I don't know where the grace is. If you're just moving all over the place and you're anxious and agitated, like if you're in your overstimulated nervous system, like you can have a hard time feeling grace. We have to come into this real humble aspect of our being, the crown. Like you come to the crown, there's really no thought in your crown. And so the crown chakra is very humble, and so is the heart. And so, Chrissy, as I'm speaking in this way, can you feel the grace?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you see it, it's just like, it's very easy. It's a very easy thing. It's just like being a child Or I mean, heck, we can even be an adult. Like today, I went and visited these friends, and there was a park, and I just laid in the grass of the park, just under this massive oak tree, and just received the majesty of the tree. It's like the timeless wisdom, light, strength of this tree, and the ocean was right there. And so, like, we can receive from a mountain. Like when people fall in love with each other, like their hearts are open and they're just receiving the grace of each other's presence. And like when I was very young, like 18 years old, my teacher said, "Do you want to get to know God?" And I was like, "Well, hell yeah." I was like, "Hell yeah, I want to get to know God." So he taught me. He said, "Okay, so you open your heart." In a sense, like just like you're just calling forth the grace of God. So it's like a very gentle, humble prayer. And in the realm of yoga and in the realm of pranayama, like there's all these breaths where like you're breathing in, it's almost like you're breathing in through a straw. Like, and in a sense, like with grace, like we're breathing in like that, just like, it's almost just like sucking on a straw. We're just drawing the grace of God into our being. And again, like not with tension, just with just a subtle intentionality of this inviting God into us. And, I can tell you that it makes God happy. Happy for her children, to begin to wake up and call forth her presence. Just in the same way, like if my little girl's in the other room, she's like, "Hey, Daddy." Like, it makes me happy to hear the sound of her voice. I walk in her direction. And that she wants to, she wants to play with me. She wants to be with me. She wants to be in my presence. And so in a similar way, it makes God happy when we commune with her. And so commune is a beautiful word. We're not used so much in modern spirituality, but it's what grace is. It's your heart communing with the heart of God. And like when we really get to know ourselves, we see that we have almost like these 7 hearts within us, like the 7 chakra centers. And each of them, if you open them, you'll begin to receive grace. And the grace will begin to flow into that center and illuminate it in a certain way, enliven it. And it'll begin to turn on the intelligence of whatever that center is. And so anywhere grace comes into contact with, it begins to turn, turn it on in a divine way. So it's quite incredible. Like the further the grace goes down throughout the body. And so many of us, we have like our lifeline of strength is based on like our food, our diet, our body, our genes, like our flesh. And then our egoic will and that type of thing, like our psychological strength. But for me, like I realized like my body it's not that strong, and my psychology is pretty strong, but again, like when I was young, I realized I'm crazy, like all humans are crazy. So there's got to be another way. And so I started to call on this lifeline. To live through me. because I've called on that, now I can give and care for and support, not only my own self, but others in a fuller way. And when I say I, it's not really I, it's just God, it's God doing it through me. And so when we, like grace, it's like electricity, it's like the power grid. It's also like the internet, but it's like you can plug into a greater power and a greater intelligence, a greater love, greater light. And, the beautiful thing too, is I say this often, absolutely free. It's totally free. It doesn't cost $1, and you don't have to go to India. And, and this is in a sense like what Jesus was teaching, like Jesus trying to get the middleman out of the way. All the churches kept trying to put the middleman back in the way, but like what God wants with us is no middleman. And, the non-dual people really trip over grace and like, oh, we don't like grace and this and that. But like when you really start opening to grace, you become grace. Like your heart and God's heart becomes one heart. Your truth, God's truth becomes one truth. And so at first it seems very dualistic. But as you begin to open to it, you become the thing you're opening to. You become it. And one of the most beautiful things I heard about Sri Aurobindo that my teacher used to tell me is people, they stop seeing Aurobindo as a man and they began to see him, like in the final years of his life, as a force. So he opened to grace so much that he became a force on planet Earth, like literally a force. And that's what that's what God is. God is the force. And so again, it's here, it's free, it's available. And to me, it's absolutely foolish and ridiculously arrogant not to call upon it. Like the arrogance is like to look at God, to look at life, say, I got this. Like I could look at life and say, I don't got this. Like this ego, like I do not got this. I don't have this. Like I can't do it was the thing I became very clear about. And so I just looked and I said, what does have this? What is this? I'm going to open myself to that. And so again, I'm going to invite us, not to speak about it in any way, but just to open your heart. And again, it can be helpful to have the little visualization of the bowl. And the bowl is just to help you get comfortable receiving, and letting that energy pool in each of the centers. Yeah. And so I hope that was helpful for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nice to be with you.
You too.
Okay. See, there's a lot more questions, but it's getting pretty late in the hour. But let me just do this because 2 people emailed questions. I said I'd respond. I'd love to do both, to do one-word answers to both these. Hi, Craig. Hope you and your family are well. The recent passing of a loved one has created some unsettled doubts in my mind about relationships and love, and unfortunately, sometimes fear of separation arises. Through lifetime after lifetime, do these relationships and bonds we create with our loved ones last forever? I hope the question's not childish. Yeah, your love lasts forever and the relationships last forever. I have deep love for parents, siblings, my fiance, and as a result, I try to broaden my love to encompass everything and all. I just want to know that if these interconnected relationships continue beyond this life. Yes. How about that? Yes. So look, the only way you'll know is like when you feel the depth of love in your heart and you feel that it's timeless and eternal. And a fun game, I'll say, this will sound a little bit morbid, but like when people die, if you open like the same way we're opening to grace, if you open in the same way and start speaking with whoever it is, they'll begin, coming up, showing up in your consciousness. And so that's one way you'll know this is true. The second way is I can remember just every person I've ever fallen in love with in this lifetime, I've known from a previous incarnation. And so it's like whenever you meet your new best friend and like just things click and you just feel like you know them already, you feel like that because you do know them already. You do know them already because you've shared lifetimes with them. And so people who aren't significant in your life, you probably haven't done any business with them in the past, anything meaningful. But people who like you meet them and on the first day, it's like, oh, geez, you know this person. Like I have this fella I met and I knew him like a brother immediately. It's like, why the hell is this? Well, it's probably my brother, at some point in some incarnation. So I'm going to leave it at that. Here's another question. Hi, Craig. I understand that Kundalini works out issues of our thoughts and emotions through chakras throughout the body. I have difficulty with the idea of not knowing, not understanding what Kundalini is working on at a given time, especially since my Kriyas are very movement and body focused, which might give clues to what chakras are being worked on. Is it helpful or even necessary that we try to understand these issues that are being cleared? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. So if there's a part of our mind that's really wanting to know and understand, I'd be cautious about that. Often our mind really wants to know and understand because it's trying to control. And that's not the way. So with the Kundalini, if the Kundalini is doing work on you, I'll just say it this way, if energy is moving, you're doing it right. If energy's stuck, it might be helpful to do some inquiry practice or some investigation. But details are not necessary, like in the realm of healing. Details are not necessary. Feelings and the willingness to feel and include and not reject. So to feel, include, and embrace, that's what's necessary. But you don't need to know, everything that's happening and being released. I mean, most of the stuff you won't know. The big thing, Tracy, I'm going to tell you is trust, breathe, feel, experience. And it'll all work itself out. Okay. Just because I've never spoken with this person, I'm going to just stay a little bit longer and just ask, Jagger, are you here? I just asked you a question, short, clear, and direct. We'll see if we can speak for a minute and then we'll wrap it up. Hi.
How you doing?
Doing good, thanks. Jagger, do you have something you want to share?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. My Kundalini's been rising a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've broken through, but I can feel a lot of movement while I sleep. And I'm kind of curious, does anybody ever go through this smoothly?
Say that again, you broke up.
Does anyone ever go through this smoothly? Like a little more like smoothly?
Yeah, so some people go through it really smooth and some people go through it really violent and wild and crazy and everything in between.
And
everything in between.
And what do you feel like ultimately creates a smoother ride versus one that's not?
Yeah.
Is it an open of the heart?
Oh, the heart has to be open. Absolutely. So what creates the smoothness is two things. Previous work in previous incarnations or this incarnation. But a lot of times the reason Kundalini just arises spontaneously, quickly, is because we've done a lot of work in a different incarnation. So that's probably the biggest thing, or a lot of work in this incarnation. So if we have that, and then a very clear psychological nature, and by that, not much wounding, trauma, or shadow, then it's going to be pretty smooth. And so like the reason Kundalini bounces around and runs into blockages and all that kind of stuff is because there's some kind of psychological wound, chaos, confusion in the nervous system, conscious or unconscious.
I think
Now, go ahead.
I think I have some of the just the child wounding stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to be born in this world and not have some.
Yeah.
Not have some. And like it's very rare that someone's like, oh yeah, like I had a really smooth ride with the Kundalini. Like when that's the case, it's almost always like they did tremendous work in a previous incarnation and they didn't have much karmic confusion. And so it just rose without any issue. And the way I look at Kundalini is oftentimes I look at it like very similar to pregnancy or adolescence. Like with adolescence, like every human body is just flooded with hormones and it gets wild and crazy. And, you know, it's bizarre and weird. It tends to be a pretty uncomfortable time. Same thing with pregnancies. But I've met some women who like, they're like, oh, like when I was pregnant, it was the happiest time of my life. And it was so beautiful. And the baby just came right out and it was all perfect. And you know, it's like this enlightened birth. That's a rare thing. And not many people talk about, you know, like their childhood or their adolescent years as being like, oh yeah, like this smooth ride. And, you know, it tends to be some growth with it. And the thing about it is that people don't value enough is like I was saying with Kyle in the beginning, like even our pain and our confusion, like with me, I had tremendous amount of pain and drama and difficulty. And the gift in that for me was that because I went through such a hellish experience, I can work with anyone and everyone with great confidence. Because like I had like the most difficult ride, like it was horrific. And because of that, because I made out the other side, I'm alive. And I'm like, yeah, like I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but also I wouldn't trade it, you know, for the world. Like, and so I can cheer people on. And so I see that God even used like a real bumpy ride, you know, as an intelligence, as a teaching. And the more difficult it is it challenges one into greater realms of awakening, you know, in the realm of unconditional love and unconditional like strength in the realm of Buddha nature. And so when we're challenged in this way, it helps develop a confidence that if everything's smooth and easy peasy, you probably won't have. And so I don't look at challenge or suffering or as a problem. I look at it, well, it's God's intelligence and God is using it in a way to teach us something great.
I think there's this part of me that's, you know, I've heard so much like negative things. And then like at the same time, it's happening to me. And I don't know like to continue my practices and just let it be and let it do its thing, or to like slow down and kind of take a minute and kind of start working on like different things to heal myself, you know, before I jump that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know, so if you have a lot of energy moving through your body and the practices you are doing are practices that excite energy, I recommend like not exciting it and just listening to it and letting it teach you from the inside out. If you're doing really simple practices that aren't exciting the energy, but are just like practices of being really open and allowing there to be a lot of space, then to me, that's, that I call that working with it.
Did you ever have altered states when you were rising?
Oh yeah. Constant altered states. I've had just ridiculous amount of altered states. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
so Kundalini awakening. So it's when it breaks through the crown and then you start the regeneration process, correct? Or is it the rising part is the journey? And then once it breaks, you're there. Like I'm so confused with that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say this, that the journey it'll just go on and on forever.
Okay.
And simultaneously, like the getting there type of thing, I would say often comes more fully when the hara and the pelvis truly open than when you blast through the crown. Like when you blast through the crown, when everything is flowing like online, we're just getting warmed up. Like, so people have this idea we blast through. Normally when we blast through, we have big experiences of cosmic consciousness and otherworldly type of experiences. It tends to be real transcendent. When the energy starts coming back down and actually embodies fully, and it's a lived experience, then all the questions disappear, and there's this a felt sense of total completion. But when we're just blasting through, often that sends us into other realms. And then there's this division between other realms and the human realm and having a body and this and that. But when the Kundalini comes back down and fully inhabits the body, like just and becomes the very thing that is the body, that now we're talking about a completion, because then there's a total non-division between heaven and earth. And so I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you. Yeah, beautiful questions. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. It's so nice to be with you. And just a reminder, I'm going to invite you to sign up for the retreat if you haven't already. Don't wait till the last minute, please and thank you. So much love to all of you. See y'all soon. Bye.